Hello everyone, my name is True Company and I am in my room of amazing Halong Bay Capella cruise. On last video, I told you about Halong Bay itself, what is this area. And in this video, my topic is Halong Bay travel. What's the pros and cons of Halong Bay? And if you decide to visit here, how could you do? Yes, it's time to discover Halong Bay travel. Apart from amazing rocks in Halong Bay, honestly, the seawater of Halong Bay is not that pretty. It's just a normal sea color. Vietnam has lots of tropical areas, but not Halong Bay. I guarantee that you hope crystal clear water in tropical country, but then again, you cannot get that in Halong Bay. Of course, there are a lot of activities that bring you close to the water. There's kayaking, bamboo boat, and it's shame when the water is like this. If all cars in ocean are like this, it wouldn't be a big deal. But the cars next door in southern Thailand, like Krabi, is exactly the color we think it is. So it's a bit of comparison. Of course, the overall scale of Halong Bay is much larger, including the number of rocky islands. Still, it's a shame that is shame. Halong Bay has a definite off-season. Not just any off-season, but a definite off-season. For the city, you don't need to care about off-season that much. But when it comes to nature and traveling in Halong Bay, it is way more important than city. The problem is that an expensive cruise is a big part of Halong Bay trip. In city hotel, if it is cloudy and foggy and raining outside, it's okay because you're mostly indoors anyway. But when you go on a luxury cruise that's all about the scenery and it's all foggy and you cannot see the scenery, you will going to be so disappointed that you took the time to go on this. The scenery is more than half of its price. You hope to get what you pay for, but it would be so sad to be disappointed. This is something you don't get much of a day cruise with short boarding time. Overall, the terrain is similar in the whole Halong Bay. It's a really big area, but Halong Bay and Lana Bay, I honestly cannot tell the clear difference. If you travel on land, your altitude changes all over the place, so you can enjoy the same terrain from above and below. But on Halong Bay cruise, your altitude is fixed, so the view is the same throughout the entire ride. But it's not all downside. Let's take a look at the advantages of Halong Bay. It's not just that Halong Bay is big. Lana Bay, Catba Island, which are actually part of the same terrain. The total area is really big. So the cruises in Halong Bay are not the only way to travel this area. You can organize a lot of different itineraries to suit your preference and conditions. Most people enjoy the same contents in Sapa and Ninh Binh, but there are many options to choose in Halong Bay. As I explained in my guide to Halong Bay, this area is not physically very far from Hanoi. It's a 2 or 3 hours car ride, way more close than the distance between Los Angeles and San Diego. Compared to Sapa and Ha Giang, which is 6-hour drive, you will realize how easy it is to get to Halong Bay. And then you've got Hanoi, which is a fundamental city of Vietnam. It makes it even more diverse for a shorter journey of 3 or 4 days. By combining two different trips, the richness of the experiences is more than double. But I still think the best thing about Halong Bay are the cruises. Not everyone likes to move around. And when you're traveling for something special, you want to do it with grace and ease. And the wonderful cruises in Halong Bay are one of the few experiences in Southeast Asia. Of course, there are lots of expensive, fancy resorts in Bali, Phuket, Samui, but those resorts are on land, not floating in the ocean. But the Halong Bay cruise, where the accommodation itself is floating on the sea. This is definitely different. You're still lying and the scenery keeps changing. The boat is big so it doesn't rock. There are a lot of activities on board too. So it's good for active people who like swimming, kayaking, etc. and those who just want to relax and enjoy the scenery both. This is the unique advantage of Halong Bay. According to Köppen climate classification, the eastern coast, where Halong Bay is located, enters the tropical rainforest. But it's not much different between Hong Kong and Hanoi, which are on similar latitudes. So you don't get very cold winter, but you will get very chilled winter. It's rain a lot in summer, typhoons in between the summer monsoons, and there's less precipitation. Spring from March to May, the first peak season in Halong Bay. Further south, in the tropics, Bangkok and Ho Chi Minh City, this moment is when they are in hottest and driest season, called the inferno season. But Halong Bay is moderately hot, and the flowers are blooming. Summer is the first low season. Of course there are greens and scenery is nice, but it rains a lot, and it's very hot. The extreme Tokyo heat from June to August is normal in Halong Bay. Plus, typhoons are an option. Of course, cruises offer refunds in case of bad weather, but just deciding to go and not being able to go because of the weather is a very stressful and disappointing. Fall is another favorite season. It's not too cold in October and early November, so you can get into water, and the morning and nights are moderately cool. It's not too rainy, it's not too foggy, it's perfect. However, until September, typhoons that has started to develop in the summer sometimes visit Halong Bay area, so you have to be careful. Winter is the second low season after summer. You cannot go into the water because the average temperature is only 18 degrees, and the lowest temperatures is 13 degrees. Of course, not everyone wants to go into the water, but the problem is the fog. If you go to see the scenery and it's foggy, it's so shame. A lot of people are disappointed. Of course, there are some people who are attracted to the fog, but I don't think there are many of them. Yes, it's simply Halong Bay, good in spring and fall, and not so good in summer and winter. This is the cheapest and fastest way to get a taste of Halong Bay. There's one from Hanoi and one from Bai Chai, but they are basically same. All cruises depart from Bai Chai. Just tourists from Hanoi wake up early and take a limo from the city, when tourists in Bai Chai sleep in their room. Of course, the most people from Hanoi also sleep in the limousine. As a day cruise, it's the perfect way to feel Halong Bay quickly. It departs before noon and returns before dinner. The itinerary is over before you get tired of it. And it's not to say there is lack of content inside. You don't just see the scenery from the boat, there are kayaking, boating, and other activities. Now its downsides, the rocking. The bigger the ship, the less it rocks and the better. But a day cruise without the cabin itself is small, so it shakes. Of course, Halong Bay itself has a complex terrain, so the waves are not too bad, but you can still feel it. Second, the travel time is too short. It takes longer to drive to and from Hanoi than the cruise. Anyway, the cost is really cheap. Second, the overnight cruise. I think this is the most preferred route in whole tourist in Halong Bay. There are also 2 and 3 nights, but one night is the most common. The booking process and transportation to and from Hanoi is the same as a day cruise. There are some activities that are shared with day trips, like kayaking and bamboo boating. They are the core experiences of a day cruise. But on an overnight cruise, it's more of an add-on. Why? Because you have a nice room and dining on the ship. You can have a great view from the comfort of your bed, and you're eating in the restaurant looking out with the window. Watch the sunrise in the morning while doing gymnastics. The stay time alone is nearly 20 hours, which is 4 or 5 times longer than a day cruise. If you stay longer than 2 nights, there are options which include a trek to the island of Catba. And because the cruises include transport, accommodation, and dining, there's a huge range of prices, from under $100 to over $500 per night. And more expensive the cruise, the more upgraded everything is. All cabins have windows to the sea, and some of the higher-end cabins even have private balconies. This is a great option if you want to enjoy Halong Bay on a special trip. Of course, it's not without its downsides. Maybe you get tired of view after you see the same scenery for 20 hours. And the ship does not always move. It stops for a couple of hours for a break, and it's just floating in the middle of the ocean all night and all morning. And there's no internet, Halong Bay is protected by Vietnamese government, so there are many places without internet. Even if the cruise ship has Wi-Fi, it might not work in your cabin. So you will need to bring something to read and see beforehand. It's so dark at night that you cannot see anything. You can find many types of cruises in halongbaytours.com by your conditions, from value for money to luxury and many other concepts. A Bai Chai stay is that you travel Bai Chai from Hanoi and stay overnight, and spend at least 1 day here to explore the neighborhoods. The scope of the trip is based on Bai Chai and Hong Kai over the bridge. First of all, Bai Chai itself is an average tourist town. There's a Sunworld amusement park and water park, but it's not on the scale or level as something that would appeal to Westerns. But the scenery of the Halong Bay from Bai Chai Beach, that is pretty good. It's different from seeing it up close. There are some pretty valuable hotels in Bai Chai too. They are not very expensive, but efficient. The most expensive resort, Vinpearl, is in the $100 a night, and the rest are in $40 or $50 range. From here, you can always take a Halong Bay cruise if you want, because Bai Chai is a starting point of Halong Bay cruise. And one of the privileges of being Bai Chai a traveler is that you can cross over to Hong Kai and go to the cafes there. As I say in the guide, it's a different view from Bai Chai. So here in Vietnam town, there are villas for Vietnamese rich. A simple downside is transportation. It's a very poor public transportation area. So unless you rent a motorcycle or a car, it's very difficult to get around the area. It's really hard to get around on foot. The second thing is that it's not very special. Bai Chai itself doesn't have a lot to offer. It can be a little bit empty and boring for some people. One tip for getting to and from Bai Chai is to avoid minivans from Midin bus terminal of Hanoi. They will rip you off and moves really slow. They wait for other passengers here and there and just stop so often. Kum Ho Express is not bad, but this one doesn't have much service. Just book a limo to Halong Bay from Haute Quarter. Seriously, if you don't listen to me, you will regret it. Oh, I should remember his advice. Staying on the Catba is basically the same as Bai Chai. It's a little harder to get to, but the content is richer. Of course, many places on the island are undeveloped and inaccessible, but it's still good enough. Getting to Catba is a bit of a hustle from Hanoi. Bus, boat, and bus are the basics, and it takes more than 3 hours. So I recommend staying at least 2 nights or 3 nights in Catba Island. Now let's see what you can do on the island. First of all, you can do some trekking in the center of the island. Catba National Park is easy to underestimate because it looks there's nothing there, but the path is pretty rough. You will need to be prepared, and you will be rewarded by its view. And then on the west coast, there are roads from the harbor where you come in from the city of Haiphong. This is also a coastal road with good views. There is a cable car near the port, but it's a long way from the Catba town, so it's not very accessible unless you have a car. And then there's a center of Catba, the Catba town in the south. There's a lot of things to do around here. It's got a great vibe with traveler-friendly restaurants and pubs. There's also some small viewpoints like Cannon Fortress. And then there's a small beaches to the south. They are not as big as one in Bai Chai, but the karst terrain is closer to that, and it's got a more backpacker vibe. Also, you can find 5-star hotels like Wyndham Flamingo and Pearl de Orient Amgallery. For me, a stay at an Orient hotel was in some ways better than the cruise. It's more stable, more comfortable. Having a private beach is a bonus. Last but not the least, Ben Bell is a port for several cruises. A number of cruises are waiting to take tourists around Lana Bay. On the way, you will pass through the large floating village, and you can swim, kayak, and do things like that in Halong Bay. It's not too expensive, around $20 for a half-day sunset cruise. Oh, let's not forget the climbing. This one starts early in the morning and ends at lunchtime. You can find advertisement all over Catba town, but it's a bit expensive at around $50, so majors are who like extreme sports. If you want to go to the island of Catba, I recommend to ride Daiichi or Catba Express bus. They directly connect between Catba town and Haute Couture in Hanoi. They will escort you to the boat and pick you up, and from the terminal on the Catba, everything is automatic in their service. If you want to do this separately, you have to take a train or bus to Halong, and from there you have to find a bus again, then a ferry, then a bus. Unless you want to travel Halong itself, just take Daiichi or Catba Express. So there we have the pros and cons of Halong Bay, the seasons, the 4 ways to travel around this area. Let's summarize what we learned today.
This is Catba Island, less luxury and less comfortable than amazing cruise, but you can feel the nature by your skin. I hope you enjoy this place soon. Thank you for watching this long video, and thank you again.